my channel. And I'm Vanessa. If you're new here, I am a YA fantasy, horror, and paranormal author. And today I am doing a film discussion, and we are going to be talking about the movie Turning Red. And I am here with my lovely co-host from the Diversity is Lit book club. So I will go ahead and let them introduce themselves to you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm writer Alicia Grumley, and I am just so excited that I get to be here to talk about Turning Red with you all. You can find me anywhere on the internet under writer Alicia Grumley, and I write poetry and young adult fantasy and nonfiction and, yeah, all of those things when the writing is done. Those are the things that I do. Sometimes, like right now, the writing is kind of hard, so I'm glad to be talking about something that's a little different from our normal, like writing and reading.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Venkat, known as Write Heather Venkat on Instagram and Twitter. I'm a YA middle grade, young YA and middle grade fantasy and contemporary writer.
We got this.
And I am very excited to talk about Turning Red.
Awesome. We do have one more co-host joining us tonight, Holly. She's just running a little bit late, but she'll have a chance to do her introduction when she comes in. So, and we did have another one, Teresa, but she wasn't able to come. Last minute work plans, so had to work late. But these are the lovely ladies from the Diversity is Lit book club. And if you guys are not part of that, you should definitely join. I will put a link to that in the description. I don't think I have yet, but I will. So yeah, and all the links to follow them are also already in the description box below. So make sure to go and follow and like. So I am super excited to be talking about the movie Turning Red. It's Disney Plus's one of their newest movies. I think came out a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago.
Yeah, right about a month ago.
Yeah. And I am super excited to be discussing it and talking about the diverse representation in the movie, and also why I think we need more movies like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and here comes Holly.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Good. Your girl does not know how to drive. I keep going the wrong way and missing exits, and
Okay.
it's lovely.
Take a breath, pause, introduce yourself.
I swear I'm not turning red right now, and I didn't have a chance to wear red like you guys. But I'm turning red on the inside. No, just kidding. I'm Holly. You can find me as Write Holly Davis. I'm a young adult and middle grade fantasy writer. Well, soon to be not just fantasy, and reader of all genres, and host of the Diversity is Lit book club. All of these lovelies look familiar as fellow co-hosts. So yeah, I'm really glad that Vanessa asked me to be part of this discussion, because I think it'll be really interesting.
Yes. And this is the first time we as a club have discussed a movie.
Yeah.
We only have discussed books up to this point as our Diversity is Lit club. So
That's true.
It's fun. True. It's a fun, and I think I'm fitting first foray into the discussion.
Yeah,
I agree.
So I kind of want to start off with just hearing your guys' thoughts on the movie and just overall in general.
All right, go ahead, Vanessa. Lead us off, because we usually are opposite sides of things. So anybody that knows or has watched any of our discussions, Vanessa and I are often like diametrically opposed if we like something or if we don't, or if we thought that something was done well. So it always makes for very interesting conversation because I feel like our perspectives are a really good balance for each other.
Diametrically, I love it.
Little Hamilton reference for everybody there.
Well, okay, so I guess I'll start off by saying one of the main reasons I wanted to have this discussion to begin with is because of a lot of the negative feedback and criticism that this movie has been getting. And part of it is the whole just not understanding a different culture, a different religion and belief systems. And so I've seen quite a few Christian videos, and I will preface by saying this is not all Christians, I know that. But there have been a few videos that I've seen where this movie has been demonized because of the beliefs. It's been called witchcraft, occultism. The panda has been compared to a demon or the devil. And it really frustrates me because, it's a different culture and, it's a different belief system, which is nothing wrong with that, but it's frustrating when others look at it at a certain way and only judge it from their perspective or their worldview. And so that's why I wanted to have this discussion and really talk about why we need movies like this and why we need diversity in literature and books, in movies, in TV. This is so important because the more we see different people, different cultures, different beliefs, the more we learn. And I feel like part of the demonizing of other cultures is just a fear and not understanding it. And so if we can learn more about it and, get rid of that fear surrounding it, I'm hoping that, we can do better with embracing everyone for who they are.
Right. I mean, in my mind, I'm just going to jump in. It's like no one complained about, Inside Out, where, yeah, that's another little girl and getting into her head and her emotions and her grappling with her emotions. No one complained about, it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of, what's the name of the movie that, sorry, I don't know why it's escaping my head, with the piano and the jazz.
Soul.
Oh, yeah.
Soul.
Oh, so,
Yeah, and it's like, you may not be like, I don't know why this movie is the one that like is getting people up in arms.
I do. I know why. I bet I know why. Because it's a women-centered movie. Of course it's going to be demonized. It's going to be. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ask me my opinion. I have.
Yeah, it was almost a rhetorical question, but
Right. We know. For anybody, she does. I know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the sad fact of the matter is that is true. It's like people are like, oh, I can't relate to this, but you watch movies about animals, Kung Fu Panda, dinosaurs,
Talking animals. Yeah, you can relate to talking animals better than this.
like and it's like it's just mind-boggling. So I felt like this was a really important contribution to that representation, not just in the diversity of the culture, but also the diversity in the struggle, like that topic matter of puberty and growing up. It's not a big deal. Everyone goes through it.
I would also like to add to that, what you mentioned, Heather, is like, I would challenge anyone who says they don't relate to it, because anyone who's been 13 can relate to this. Anyone who's gone through being a teen, I'm sure. I've seen comments on reviews, YouTube reviews. I've seen comments from even guys who say they can kind of relate to it. So it's like the experience of developing your crushes, having conflict with your parents, wanting to do more mature things or grown-up things, and everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, go ahead, Holly.
Oh. I was just gonna say, like, I like vaguely heard that Turning Red was coming out, and so I was like excited to watch it. But literally, the first thing that I saw was on Facebook, and it was like these parents saying like, "Whoa, like this is bad for our kids," setting a bad example, and I was like, "Wait, what?" And so I was like taken aback because that was like the first feedback I had seen about the movie. But then seeing what they were like complaining about, I was like, okay, I definitely need to investigate this for myself, because it seems like it's like we've come to expect a certain, approach that Disney brings with lessons that are being taught. And it's like, Disney's not going to bring something that is not respectful and not going to help people learn, and that's not going to be enjoyable. So I was like, I have to watch it. And so I agree with what everyone has said so far, but I think like the symbolism is what I took from it and appreciated about it with the panda, because it's like, hey, now even these young kids can like find something fun about it, but then realize that like, if they get angry, they're going to turn into this red panda, and it kind of makes it more approachable in that way, and kind of opens up that topic of discussion, because maybe some parents are comfortable telling their kids, you might get your period, you're going to start liking people, like, and also the fact that like, hey, there are may rebel against her parents, but isn't that what we want out of characters, are flaws, and they learn to overcome them? So a lot of the controversy I saw around it was like not really warranted, because it's like, well, she's not supposed to be perfect, and this is teaching them, hey, there are consequences if you don't listen to your parents. But then you see there are some things that happen when you do decide to listen and trust yourself. And so I really enjoyed it, because I found there were a lot of lessons I could learn from it. And that's why I like Disney, because it is relatable to me, even though I'm, to me now, not just the fact that like I grew up, as a girl, but just that it was relatable to me now, and that there's always something that both kids and adults can learn from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, is it fair to say that I'm the Disney queen of the diversity of lit?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I think it's probably fair. So it was like kind of on my radar. This is a Disney movie that did not get near the social media, the advertising, the marketing campaign, right? It did not get all of that. Like, I knew it was coming out because I'm obsessed with Disney, but the trailers that I saw, I was just kind of like, I'll get to it eventually. Like, I'll see it eventually. And then when Vanessa had said, like, hey, like, I'm seeing some of these trends going on, like how this is being demonized, could we talk about this, it became a higher priority level for me because I respect her opinion so much. And I knew that, yeah, like, okay, there's definitely going to be things. And, I kind of want to play this game. I want to see what we're doing. So I did watch some of these reviews and I felt so sad as I was watching them. So I am a Catholic. I think everyone in the group at least knows that. So I am Catholic and, so I understand the monotheistic mentality of the Christian mindset, but I felt like some of these reviews were so close-minded that and it was parents who were doing this reviewing oftentimes. I don't know, and I only watched a couple, but there was such a teachable moment and moments throughout this entire movie. If you really had wanted to make it a teachable, you could think, look, this is an experience into someone else's culture. How is it different from what we as Christians believe? How is what something that they're maybe saying or doing, how would we as Christians interpret that? So there was, I think, a really missed opportunity for these people who are kind of jumping down the gun and saying oh, it's witchcraft and wizardry. And one of them that I watched was it's teaching kids to not trust people in authority. And I'm like, hello, of course we don't trust people in authority. You're talking to the Harry Potter generation, for all of the things that, have come of that now. One of the things I learned most, and, we don't just trust people in authority because they're in authority. They do not have your best interests at heart, and so, that is a personal belief, so take that with a grain of salt. But it did make me thankful because I did grow up in a strong Catholic home, those were our values that were taught. And I understood we went to church every Sunday and, that was how I was raised. But my parents were also readers and are readers. And they have never once in my life that I can remember ever censored a book for me. They want me to, one of the best gifts they gave me, which, could be a Western culture piece of this. One of the best gifts that they gave me was that they wanted me to have a brain of my own. They were we're not always going to agree on things. This is what we believe. Here's why we believe it. But one of the most important things is to think through it, and you cannot meet someone and go through and be oh, your entire culture is wrong. This deep sense of your identity, that is not going to, if your goal as a Christian is to evangelize and bring people into the church and into the faith and into know Jesus, telling someone that as they are is not good enough is not the way to convince anyone to do anything. So I am really glad that we are going to have this conversation tonight because I might not have watched the movie without the prompting of my friends, and I'm so glad that there are people out in the world now who can see themselves in Mei Mei, who can see themselves in, throughout this whole movie. And there's really only 3 male characters throughout this entire movie that get any sort of screen time, which is unheard of. There's her dad, and he is just the sweetest man. He comforts her at one point. Oh, are we saying spoilery things? We would normally give a spoiler warning. Are we doing spoilery?
We can do some spoilery. So, yeah, we should do a spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning. Okay, I wanted to for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. But there's a really sweet moment with Mei Mei and her dad, kind of on the after the climax of the movie, and he just said hey, there's lots of parts of all of us, and this side of you made me laugh. And so he validated her there, and he made this beautiful contribution to say I'm going to love you no matter what, and I think for Christian reviewers to put this under the lens of Christianity when it is very clearly not, it's comparing apples to oxen. It's not the same you like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it was like unjustified getting up in arms about things. And like not telling anybody how to raise their kids, right? But like I said, I feel like there were so many teachable moments that were missed. And, we can talk about like how much diversity, which Vanessa, I don't know if you've linked that down below of like that article that you sent us of like the other forms of diversity throughout the movie.
Yeah, I actually have some pictures I was gonna.
Oh, great. Yeah. Yeah. And like the fact that it was directed by a woman and, like that is part of what we need in diversity too. We need women's voices being brought to the table. And because it's a different story. It's a different story now because it was a woman director, because it's semi-autobiographical, because of all these things, So I enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched it. I mean, it's not my like new favorite Disney movie because I like hang pretty tight at Cinderella and then Moana and Frozen 2. But those are big like musical ones for me. So, but I liked it and I'm glad I watched it. And there's an 8-year-old in my life who really liked it. And now I'll get to talk to her about it and like talk to, about some of the female friendships that I saw with like May and her friends, which was one of my favorite parts, like she had this incredible group of friends that supported her, that never made her feel weird, that, even though they couldn't empathize, they still were there for her. And like girls need to see that. Girls need to see that is how we friend. That is how we behave. We support each other and we bring each other up and we've got each other's backs. Like I don't want to see mean girls portrayed in the media. So I feel like there's a level of diversity too that we maybe haven't even touched on yet.
Yeah. And there's a lot in this movie that we could cover. But the one thing I kind of wanted to also touch on, because I know this was another part of the criticism that was being brought up, was how rebellious May was and how, teaching kids to be rebellious and not listen to their parents. But the whole thing is the very first part of the movie, the first like 2 minutes, she starts off saying, the number one rule in our family is honor your parents, right? But if you take that too far, you may forget to honor yourself. And I like that we kind of see how that plays out throughout the movie, because May has always, always done things for her mom and, always tried her best to be the good daughter, get all A's, work in the family's temple, all these things for her mom at the sacrifice of her own happiness at times. And then we start to see a switch when she does transform into the panda. We start to see a switch where she starts embracing more of who she is and who she wants to be, and honoring that part of herself, which I think really speaks to, which I'm sure Alicia, you can touch on this as well, being a mental health advocate, it touches on our mental health, right? If we are constantly doing things for other people to the detriment of ourselves, well, that really affects our mental health.
Yeah, it did for me. I mean, that was one of the things that triggered, and I don't know like how open I've been about this, but I suffered from some really, really severe depression and anxiety like 7-8 years ago. And it was triggered a lot by like trying to meet these expectations that were placed upon me, from people who meant well. And I kind of eventually had to say like, no, like that's not going to cut it, and like you only get one go around. And I really liked the part near the end where her mom says to her, like in line with this, like, you're so hard on yourself, right? Like you do everything for everybody else, but you're so hard on yourself. And if I've taught you that, I'm sorry. Like just to get to see that moment of like this mother who clearly loves her daughter, like, we hope that is my hope for all of us, that we have people that love us and support us in our lives, right? And I know that is not, unfortunately, the case for everyone, but I hope that you have parental figures or parents who love and support you, or that you can find some that are willing to serve that role for you. And for that mom to say to her, for Ming to say to May, like, I never meant to give you this part of me that I didn't like so much, that I rebelled against my own mother, like I thought that was really powerful. So yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, that part of like her mom also like rebelling was one of the like points in that video that I watched, that they're like, oh, she's doing this and this, and it's like, yeah, and you learn that all of her family did that too, because that's a part of growing up and a part of finding yourself, and her mom apologizing and like owning up to she could have done things differently. So it's like, yes, honor your parents, but like Vanessa said, taking it too far. Like, if they say jump off a cliff, you're not going to do it, So it's like there's
Hopefully not.
There's like a certain line that like you can't cross, and it's like you have to find that balance.
Yeah, and I also think, there's a little bit of a play in there on kind of like mutual respect. Like May had to sort of hide her interest. She couldn't really be her true self around her parents. So and then when she kind of tried to bring up like, oh, I like this boy band 4town type of thing, she was like shot down. So what else did they expect? Like, yeah, she's going to have to kind of like be secretive about things because they're not supporting that interest of hers. And so I mean, if parents were upset that she like defied, it's like, oh, it's teaching them to be disobedient. It's like, yeah, but like, the parents are not like angels in this movie either, though, and I mean, I did even see one, I loved the father, but I did see one review that was kind of complaining. They're like, he needs to step up and like intervene because he's just letting the mom like just like and
they wanted him to be more toxic masculinity.
Yeah, so I saw that, but it was like, it's like each of the characters in this movie have a flaw, and that's part of being human, like Holly was saying. But I thought it was all well done, and not just like well done, but also creatively done with how they, obviously she turns into a giant red panda. But
I thought that the symbolism of the giant red panda, because they talk about like, and this is like minor spoiler, right? Like it's any like strong emotion can trigger the giant red panda, right? For May and for the rest of her family. But it was very interesting to me how so often that was anger, that feeling that triggered it was anger. And I thought it was a really interesting, subtle commentary on how women aren't allowed to feel, but aren't allowed to feel angry, right? Aren't allowed to get mad that things aren't fair, aren't allowed to like get mad that they're not being seen, or they're not being heard, or that they're feeling like they don't fit in, right? And like, I feel like all of the times we see her mom dealing with the panda, it deals with her mom's anger, right? Like we don't see her dealing with her mom's like joy, like of a like crush, but like it is anger related to a love, but it's still anger, right? And it's, how dare you try and take this choice away from me? So it was very, very well done in my opinion, because I don't think if it was done by a man, based on all of the media I've ever consumed in my life done by men, that it would have been as just like eloquent on the screen, how that comes across, if that makes sense. Like, it just really nails it home. Like, you're supposed to be seen and not heard, and you aren't supposed to get angry, even about things that should make you angry, right? Like, so I thought that was really, maybe one of my favorite parts, honestly, is like that kind of commentary around anger and how it can turn us into
Yeah.
monsters.
Yeah. I like that.
One of my favorite parts, I think, was when they were doing the ritual, and May is in the circle. She's going up into the ritual, and then she's in that forest, and she sees her ancestor over this like mirror reflection.
Mm-hmm.
She starts to go through it, and I was actually really nervous about that part, because in my head I kept saying, "Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it!"
I know, me too. I was like, don't go, no. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted her to keep the panda, and at one point I was afraid that she wasn't going to. She was actually going to do it, and so I'm glad that she turned around and was like, you know, instead embraced the panda, and she emerges like full on panda, and her mom's like, it's okay, we can do this again, we can try the ritual again, and she's like, no, I'm keeping it.
Yeah.
Like,
And she
I
hugged
love
herself.
that part.
And she like hugged herself, you know, it's like, that is self-acceptance. Like, that's what I want to see, you know?
Oh,
yeah, so I really love that part, because it just shows how much she's come to accept every part of herself, even when others are telling her this part is not good or not acceptable or something that needs to be hidden away. She embraces it and is like, no, I'm gonna love all of me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, having Miriam, her like best friend of the four, you know, like, say to her, like, don't give it all back. Like, I love this version of you, you know, like, seeing somebody support her, like, she needed that, right? She needed somebody who she obviously loved a lot, like that's her key to her calm, right? And to say, like, to have that person who you want to accept you and you expect to accept you no matter what, validate you, is so incredibly powerful. Like, I loved seeing Miriam say to her, maybe don't give it all back, because you're the bomb. Like, keep the parts that you like, keep the good parts, you know? And like, how like revolutionary is that like you get to tell kids, like, you can constantly reinvent yourself, you know, like, you don't have to pick the one way to be all the time. You can pick the best parts of that, and you can decide the parts that don't serve you and don't work for you.
I love that. Yeah. You know, the parts where, you know, Meg was kind of using the panda to her advantage to, you know, get all the money for the concert and everything. And she was, you know, keep bringing it out for other reasons. And so I like that she kept it for herself in the end. And, you know, and it wasn't for any other reason, but she felt like she needed that part of herself.
Yeah.
But I loved how, like, yeah, the like schoolmates' reactions, they're all like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. Okay, let's get like t-shirts and let's do this and that. And it's like, and she wasn't expecting that. Like, oh, they actually like really like this side. Oh, okay. I'm like this cute cuddly thing. Not like so scary. So I really liked that part, even though, yeah, like you said, she kind of was like using it in a way, but I think that helped her with like, coming to terms with like, oh, okay, like this is not so bad.
Right, but she owned up to using it too. She took accountability for that, which I think is a great lesson to teach kids. If we're talking about all these lessons that are maybe like lessons from the Christian reviewers, but like taking accountability and responsibility for your own actions is huge. And a lot of adults can't even do that. So I think that when she says it to her mom, like, hustling the panda, my idea. It was my idea to go to the concert. I was the one that earned all the money, I mean, she was doing it in a defiant way, but she admitted it, like she didn't try and hide it, which was a nice juxtaposition of seeing her make the wrong choice of throwing her friends under the bus, right? But it just showed how much she had actually come when she owned up to it. So yeah, I like that.
So I had a couple things I wanted to pull up on the screen to share, because I have some of the pictures that goes into more of the diversity in the film. And then also I had a couple of comments from people who have left comments on other reviewers saying like what this movie meant to them. And I think that's important to see some of that as well. Before I pulled that up, I did see I got a couple comments from Leanna's here. So hi, Leanne.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. She says, I can't watch live right now, but I'll catch the replay. So awesome.
Great.
So I'm going to pull up those comments. I put them up on the screen thing. Okay, so these were some of the comments that I just grabbed from YouTube videos of reviews. Should have probably made it a bit bigger, but the first one, it says, as the daughter of immigrants who vividly remembers what it's like to grow up in and around Toronto in the early 2000s, this movie hits so well. I saw a lot of myself in those girls and a lot of my family dynamics too. This movie is important and I love it.
Nice.
Aww.
Another one said, as a Christian married to an Asian Hispanic American, I thought this movie was fantastic. It teaches children that parents aren't always right because they aren't, and many children deal with emotional trauma due to the harsh expectations parents set for them. However, it does not suggest at all that children should be rebels. Children do rebel, and it portrays that, but May still is a good girl who loves her mom and family and wants to carry the family traditions at their temple. The menstruation reference should be more common in films. Too many young girls grow up highly uneducated, and the whole subject is unnecessarily taboo. The whole inner beast being let out simply sounds like Chinese Buddhist ideology, which might not be Christian, but is by no means evil. I hope we as Christians can be open-minded and respectful of different religions and cultures and realize that good can be found anywhere.
Well said.
That's great.
Yeah. And then this one said, wow, as an Asian from Hong Kong, seeing those Christians can analyze Turning Red in that way really opened my eyes. I don't know, but I kind of feel offended when they say the red panda is a demon and Sun Yi in the bamboo forest is an evil witch or something. Like, this is a different culture thing. There are tons of stories and legends about animal turn into humans or human turn into animal in Asia. And some of them are good, some of them are bad, nothing to do with the Bible. The case in Turning Red is the ancestor's son Yi turns to Red Panda to protect her family and home. Isn't this the noblest reason to get and use such ability? How come a person acting like this can be considered evil? I
Oh my
hope,
god.
I
Sorry. I just like made a reference of like we are literally in a season celebrating someone who sacrificed themselves for us. Like in the Christian faith right now, like currently. I'm just like that just hit another way. Like that was useful, inappropriate. Sorry, please continue.
They said, I hope these people can stop seeing things through their religious eyes, especially when things have nothing to do with their religion. Yeah, the Lee family does not worship your God because traditionally Chinese culture just doesn't have that religion. Respect other cultures, could you please? Also, as a Hong Konger who speaks Cantonese instead of Mandarin Putongo, I don't think I'm saying that right, in daily life, I am so happy to hear a lot of Cantonese in this movie, especially the TV drama is so accurate. That's some old Hong Kong TV drama stuff. People in Hong Kong in many Hollywood movies for some reason can't speak Cantonese or just speak Mandarin Putongo, and that's not true. So,
Awesome.
and there was just a couple more where this person said, the movie touched them, and I felt when May was hiding her true self, her mom, from her mom out of fear. I too grew up terrified to disappoint my mom, and media like this really helps to start healing that. Damn, this movie is too real. I'm Latino, but I felt this way more than things like Encanto, from the strange awakening of feelings, the crushes, the cringy confidence, the fear to change. And that's the other thing I liked, which is why I wanted to pull up some of these comments, because no matter whether it's, you don't have to be Asian American or Asian Canadian, or you don't have to be a part of that Asian culture to relate. There were a couple of these. This one was from, she says, I'm just a weirdo white woman who lives in a small Ontario town. But she related to it as well. And so, you don't have to be a part of that culture for a lot of the things in the movie to hit home and relate to you in some way. And then I love this last one, wasn't from, I don't know if it's from another Christian or not, but this one just said, this wasn't a Christian movie. It's about a Canadian Asian girl coming of age. As a first generation American, there was so much I could identify with the main character. Living in a Western world with foreign parents whose expectations are usually greater than your Western counterparts. I also feel that the Turning Red was symbolic of a girl going through puberty. I love the movie and how her mother allowed her to become herself in the end. Not doing everything your parents want doesn't mean you're not honoring them. Sometimes a movie is just a movie made by people who experienced those things and want to share their story. But you're holding it to standards that was not a part of the making of this movie. This wasn't made for Christians. This was made for a small group of people who aren't usually shown in cinema. Let's let them have their movie without judgment. If you don't want to watch it, then don't. But to say something is from the devil because you don't identify with it is dangerous. Let's not.
Amen.
Really,
Totally
no.
true.
So,
Yeah, it's like just because you don't identify with it doesn't mean it's bad or dangerous.
Right. It's not wrong. Like, This is why representation matters, and this is why this conversation is important. I'm once again so glad that Vanessa asked if we could have it, because, you know, I think the more people that can have conversations like this in these type of, I feel like, I mean, I've always felt like this is a very safe and respectable environment, which I think we all work very hard to maintain. But, you know, I think that's the only way that we start chipping away at these stigmas. But more importantly than that, it's the only way we start chipping away at fear. Like, you can't fear someone that you know. You can only fear what you don't know. And, you know, like, you start learning, like, oh, like, I have a friend who's like May, and her favorite color is, you know, peach, and they love like this kind of cooking, and, you know, like, and I've gotten to have this kind of meal with them. And, you know, you can't hold on to that fear, because fear can only exist in the dark, right? And it can't, as soon as we start bringing things to, like this to light, which is kind of like going back to the mental health thing, I learned that the sooner I brought something to the light, the less power it had. So, you know, fear can only exist in the dark for me. And so as soon as I speak it out loud to someone else, I can reason with myself and say, like, wait a minute, why am I saying that? Or why is that true? Or like, is that even true? And I think that is why one of the reasons why we all participate in our book club, why we all participate in this conversation tonight. And I know why Teresa will be hopping on after she's able to watch the movie and, you know, leave some comments below, because we are taking the work seriously of dismantling stigmatism, or like stigmas as they exist, you know. And it's hard work, but it's not work that any one of us can do alone. We have to be willing to have open and honest dialogue with people, I think.
Yeah.
Amen. I think too, the other diversity piece is all of the characters that were you know, giving representation. Oh my God, perfect timing. And it was cool because there were some scenes that I had recognized and others that I didn't. And I think both of those pieces are important. Like, I was like, oh, look, that person's wearing a hijab. Oh, there's someone in a wheelchair. But then I was like, oh, I didn't see, you know, the wheelchair ramp into the school. Like, wow, that's cool. So it's like they're making it like they're normalizing that because it's a part of life. And it was cool to see like the bus and, you know, like transportation access. And so it was just like cool for it to just be normal. And it wasn't something that they were like just shoving in your face, you know?
Yeah. There was a lot of representation in here, which I didn't notice at first when I first watched it, until I saw that post that I shared with you guys and looking through the pictures. I did notice some of the wheelchair users in certain scenes, but I circled this. I completely missed this one the first time I watched the patch. I think this is for diabetes.
Yeah, it looks like it's like an insulin. Yeah, like an insulin port.
And so just the fact that they're showing kids and normal people, you know, from different ethnicities and cultures and different disabilities and, you know, religions and stuff. There's a few more pictures here as well. You know, a couple people that you can see with the hijab you were saying, Holly, or the turban, you know, and the wheelchair ramp like you were talking about. And so, and this was all throughout the whole movie. So it wasn't like it was just one scene or two scenes here or there. This was throughout the whole movie. We see the diversity that was there, and we see characters that are just living their lives as normal, as we should.
As we should, yeah.
Yeah, actually, after I watched it, I was like, I could watch this again and just look at
Yeah.
not the main characters, look at the background, and because there was just so much there that I felt like I missed. I saw some things, but I did miss other things. But I think that lends itself to how seamlessly they just made it part of the every day. I mean, it's like they don't have to have it in your face because it's there. It's part of the world, and so I just loved how they did that.
And I think too, not leaning into like stereotypes of like, oh, what, you know, like there was the character, like a character, at least one that I had seen in a wheelchair at the concert, and it's like, yeah, people in wheelchair can go to concerts, like, and you know, the two girls that you showed in these screenshots, you know, it's not like they're like severely overweight or, you know, obese or something. It's like, yeah, like normal kids can have diabetes, and so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was just going to say, also speaking of that, they also show different body types. Like we see here, her friends are all different body types, which is great as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think it's interesting that it's not even that they can exist, but that they do. That kids with diabetes can exist, yes, of course, but they do. And like we're seeing representation on screen for that, which is incredible. I'm sure if there's a kid with diabetes, they're like, I don't know that I've seen a kid with diabetes, even as a kind of supporting character on screen, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Heather, though, that I think I could easily go back through and just like almost like keep a tally mark of like different ways I see diversity represented. Because it's not just a checklist, I think is kind of what we're all talking around, right? Like these characters are not represented just so somebody could check off and say, oh, we have someone with, you know, wheelchair access needed. We have someone that has diabetes, like check. Like, no, like they went through the effort of animating a bus. Like we're forgetting that this is all animated, right? Like someone had to purposefully draw all of the background. So they went through the purpose, like the intentionality, I think is really worthwhile to know, because it makes it seem more real, that it's not just a checklist item.
Yeah, I think it's cool too that like Disney's on this a role, I guess, with these you know, main characters that don't look like the typical princesses that you're supposed to. It's like May, just like Mirabelle, wearing glasses, you know, and like Vanessa, you were saying with their friends, it's like we've got the tomboy, we've got, you know, her other friends wearing glasses, you know, and so it's just like it's cool that they, you know, they're showing that it's like not, it's kind of breaking that stereotypical like pretty mode and showing that you can be relatable in all these other ways.
Yeah. I think those were all the pictures that I had, so go ahead. So,
I was just going to ask a question. Go ahead.
Oh, you can ask.
I was going to ask if anybody noticed when all of the women went into the red panda form, if they noticed their like almost little like family crest in the fur along their shoulders. All of them have this like, and I think it might have something like some sort of symbol back to Sun-Yi, but it's almost like the symbol of Te Fiti from Moana, where it's like kind of that almost spiral, but it's right on their shoulders. May has it, her grandma has it, and I was actually kind of hoping that we would kind of see the flashback of how grandma got her scar, because I'm like 99.9% sure that was when she hurt her mother, right? Like the scar in grandma's eyebrow, because like Ming is crying at one point and she's like, I hurt my mother, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. But like you see this kind of really prominent scar on her grandma's eyebrow kind of throughout every time she's in the scene, and she even has it in her panda form. So I was kind of hoping we would get to see that flashback of that moment, right? Because I'm like, we as adults can infer, but you know, like it just maybe an artistic choice of why they didn't include it. But yeah, I was just wondering if anybody noticed the like subtle way that they connected the females in the family.
I did not. Now I'm disappointed.
I'm seeing. I see like a clip of when they're all like pulling the.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Look at their shoulders.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's cool.
Can you throw it up on screen, Holly, or no? Do we have that
I
access? I don't know.
don't think so.
Okay.
Here,
No.
if I post the. Hold on a sec.
But that was a fun way of like connecting. I thought that you know that all of the women went through this and they all had to do this, and then at the end they were like, "Wait, so May's keeping the panda?" And they're like, "Yep, no go. Like it's her body, her choice. You know, like it's her life." What they said was her life, her choice, and I was like, "All right." Like getting to see like these adults like admit that they were wrong too, and like realize that they had their own room for growth was cool.
Yes.
I think Holly just sent me the link, so
Okay.
I can pull it up. Let me screen share if it'll let me.
So Teresa or anybody in the replay, let us know if you caught that. Some like the kind of because I don't think it was a coincidence.
It's good that you like watched it recently because you have all like the details and stuff. So it's like, oh, I forgot what this person's name was. Like, what?
When she says I watched it recently, she may have mean I finished it this morning. It's fine.
That's great. I love it.
Always the honest one over here.
Don't. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up, but okay. Let's see. Maybe. Okay, is that showing?
Yep, that's the scene where I noticed it. I don't know if you can zoom in, but they all have like a very similar like
Swirl.
Mhm.
Yeah, I see that. Swirl.
Right there.
Yeah.
On one of their shoulders. It might be both. It might be only one. I'm not sure, but
Yeah. So this.
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
And they all like, you know, worked together at the end.
Yeah. She's family. She
it was
needs
great.
us.
Yeah. So, I guess we are right about at the hour mark. So, if you want to start wrapping up, does anyone have any final thoughts they want to share on this?
I don't know about this, but I would be interested in doing other similar chats if we find other, you know, awesomely diverse representation movies. I don't know like what number to put that under. I want to just call them movies because that's what they should be. But movies with adequate and effective and acceptable representation. So if it was something that you all enjoyed, let us know. Maybe Vanessa would be willing to host again on the film side of things because it's kind of a fun different way of looking at it. And it's important to me to remember that it's not just the books that I want to read that I want to see diversity in.
Yeah.
That's kind of my takeaway. That I want to see diversity everywhere. I don't want to just see representation of myself on screen. And I'm struggling with that in an area of my life where I feel like I look out and all I see are faces that look like mine. And that makes me very nervous because it makes me wonder, like, where are the people that are missing from this table? And that's why I fight to bring diversity to more of a fun forefront. You know, I know I have a certain privilege as a white woman of like being able to say like, wait a minute, like there are people missing from this table. And like, I don't want to just be reading books. A couple years back, I started keeping track of the authors that I read in very specific dynamics. I wanted to make sure that like less than 10% of the books I read in a year were by old dead white men, basically. And so like at first it seemed so hard. I was like, oh my God, I'm like missing so many books. Like I'm not going to get a chance to read this because of this. But now it's almost like second nature, where most of the books I pick up are by females or by people of color. So I just really like how that is permeating, because it should, like my perspective is not the only one of value here. And I want to continue widening my perspective and having an open mindset. So I would be interested in doing other film discussions if they were interesting to people.
Yeah.
I
Same.
would enjoy that too. Yes.
Me too.
Yeah, I would love to do more of that stuff. Awesome. Well, so that is it, I guess, for our live tonight. So just a reminder, everyone's links are in the description below. So definitely go and follow all of them. Holly and Alicia both have YouTube channels here as well. So definitely go check them out. And I will see you guys next time soon. Bye.
Thanks for hosting, Vanessa.
joining.
Bye.